Trump fights fire with fire. Islamic State, they made it very clear, they fight eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
What do you think of the terrorist attacks that happened in Europe?
Bullshit question, do you feel sorry for the French, for the German? You think you don't kill so many people? And you think the Islamic State is just going to give you, when they see you, they're just going to give you a box of chocolate?
Jihadists who regret nothing. Brut interviewed several of them in Syria in December 2019. One of our reporters gained exclusive access to a prison run by Kurdish Special Forces where some 5,000 alleged members of the Islamic State were being held. In March 2019, the Islamic State lost the Battle of Baghouz. This defeat ended their territorial presence in Syria, but it raised a serious question: what to do with the militants and their family members who were captured in battle.
I was ISIS, I had the ideology, I was in the movie thinking when I take all the world. Of course I regret. I get really brainwashed.
أنا خطر قلقي مزنا بقردي أنا الباما يعني وبكم بلاك حاضر اشتقاندني نمنظام بتكي جان دقيقة قبت مد بتاق يعني والبندة درفتك قلقي بشوكن خوابدن درخستن.
The footage and interviews that you are going to see were filmed by Brut's lead foreign correspondent, Charles Villa, a French journalist. To get inside this heavily guarded and overpopulated prison, Brut had to agree to two conditions. First, no filming the exterior of the prison for security reasons. And second, no discussing the news with the prisoners. To avoid the possibility of a revolt, they still had not been told that the United States had killed the head of the Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Every room was packed, with almost no space to move around. Barely any daylight either. The only light that managed to get in was from this window. Some of the prisoners who had been captured in the Battle of Baghouz in March 2019 hadn't left this room since then. The toilets were there at the back of the room. Just to the right was where they could wash, which they seemed to do with water cans. There was a very strong smell coming out of the room. Our reporter said it was almost unbearable. One of the prisoners in this room was a young British jihadist who agreed to be interviewed.
What do you think of the terrorist attacks that happened in Europe?
And what do you think when the coalition, they just bomb fighters? When you're constantly bombarding a group of people, don't expect no retaliation. It's going to happen.
Have you seen the killings of Western journalists that were beheaded on video by British fighters?
As I said, for me, killing or beheading is something gruesome to me. I don't like it, okay? But if it's a judgment that's passed by one of the judges of the Islamic State, I might not like it, but who am I to go and challenge the Islamic State? I can tell you a lot of stuff, but on the same time, I'm risking my health and my safety here, because I cannot express myself fully. If I start saying certain things, there's a translator here, he will start telling the Kurds, he said this, he said that. And once you're gone, they're going to come and beat the out of me. I can tell you more, but I don't want to get in trouble.
Our reporter was not alone with the British jihadist. The head of the prison, along with several members of the Kurdish Special Forces, were in the room with them during the entire interview. Despite that, the man was quick to criticize his captors, as well as the conditions inside the prison.
I've been sitting in the whole prison for a very long time. Everybody in this room is desperate to get out of this prison, because this prison is not, it's not what they claim to be. It's very severe. People are dying here every day. Lack of medication. One guy died here yesterday. Everybody just wants to get far away from these people, because you're not really getting your basic human rights. Nobody wants to be like a captive like this, the way they're treating the prisoners here. It's not good.
The head of the prison is a member of the Kurdish Special Forces and obviously had a very different take on conditions inside the prison.
The British ISIS member that I interviewed told me that he would get beaten if he was telling the truth about this prison.
أنا تشايا أنا راسته جبرت الشكي تاني دما قمولو بكن أمجي بن وكوان الفيدا بانا يصير البرد السمام تعملها وانت كنت تعملها إنسانة تعملها يصيرها إنسان كي يزعيفو كتي ناف دس ماذا جبر ولو أم فيتش يمناكن جبر كأخلاقي مجمر ولو ناكو إنسانيتها ما قبولناك أنا خطر قلكي مازلنا بقرتي أنا الباما يعني وبقم بلاك حاضرش تقاندني نم نزان بيت كيجان دقيقة قبت مد بتاق يعني والبندر درفتك قلكي بتشوكن خوابدن در خستن.
There have been several attempted prison breaks. In this video, you can see one of the techniques that the prisoners used several times. One of the jihadists pretends to be dying in order to distract the guards. When the doors open, the prisoners attack. As a result, our reporter had to be extremely careful wherever he went, especially when visiting the prison hospital, where some 300 people were crammed together. This is the hospital.
Can we go?
Our reporter had to let a guard walk ahead of him at all times. This is as far as he was able to go. The guards explained that if he went any further, it would be impossible to get out if something went wrong.
فأنا قل لك شوان جبر حربا قمال سلمان كر قل لك شوان بريدار هنا من الفيديو كم على جو عندك قل لك شوان نخوشن من الفيديو كم على جو عندك قل لك شوان مثلا سيخ تدسي عندي سيخ تنيجي عندي نخوشي يعني نخوشي نورمال مثلا نافع واندر بحريكة أفتشتنا مش علاج ده.
Many of the prisoners were extremely thin and very weak and looked to be suffering from malnutrition. Many had bullet wounds, bone pins, and external fixations, battle wounds on their arms and legs, like this man, for instance. A bullet must have hit him in the leg. There was also a very strong, almost putrid smell, and our reporter had to wear a face mask. It looked like the people in the hospital had nowhere to wash, and there was only one toilet for the nearly 300 of them. In the middle of these sick and injured prisoners, our reporter interviewed Abdallah, a 24-year-old Belgian jihadist who had been there for 9 months and had joined the Islamic State originally in 2014.
Do you have any regret coming to Syria?
I don't regret come to Syria, because I came to help. Like example, coalition come to help the Kurds. Like everywhere people want to help me. If bad guys, good guys. Of course, in the beginning I was ISIS. I had the ideology. I was in the movie thinking when I take all the world. ISIS propaganda, it's very, very beautiful. Come and you can live and everything is okay. And then when you come, even if you not fight, example, they're gonna kill you or put you in prison. If you don't do this, you cannot argue with them. If they have a rule, example, the attacks in Belgium, if you argue with them, it's not good or it's bad, you cannot speak,
What do you think of the terrorist attacks that happened in Europe and they were targeting innocent people?
In Bahus, I bury 4 or 5 babies. I saw with my own eyes hundreds of women with no legs, with no arms, with no heads, killing innocent people from both sides. I'm against it, it's bad. Of course, it's very bad what happened to the Belgians in the airport, to the French. I regret to come to the war and fight and destroy my body, my life. I left my mother. Of course I regret. I just was young, naive. Being this ice, I just was, dumb, believing anything.
This is Al-Hol, a giant camp where the families of Islamic State militants now live. 70,000 people live here, mostly women and children, in extremely difficult conditions. This is the market for women and children from countries outside Syria, where they can buy food and clothes. There's also a store where they can withdraw money that people send them from abroad.
Bonjour, vous êtes française?
Oui.
Bah, je suis venu pour rencontrer des Françaises.
Français?
Oui, je suis français. Quel âge vous avez? Vous venez d'où?
On est entre 20 et 35.
Ouais.
On vient partout de la France.
Comment vous vivez ici? C'est quoi la situation sanitaire?
On a du mal à se chauffer parce qu'il fait très très froid, on est entouré par du bout de tissu et ils ne nous donnent pas à manger ou alors c'est quelque chose qui nous donne la diarrhée pendant des semaines. Il n'y a pas beaucoup d'associations humanitaires qui viennent.
Il n'y a pas d'association du tout.
On n'a pas de médecin, pas d'hôpital.
Il n'y a pas d'hôpital, ouais.
Qu'est-ce que vous faisiez, vous, au sein de l'État islamique? Est-ce que vous aviez des travails?
Donc j'étais à la maison. Donc à la maison.
Femme au foyer.
Voilà.
Faire des gosses tous
Les
les ans.
enfants, faire le ménage, à manger.
J'ai une vie de femme au
Vie de
foyer.
femme, en fait.
Bah, franchement, c'était bien, on vivait bien. On avait nos maisons, on avait en fait, on avait chacun nos appartements. On vivait avec nos maris, avec nos enfants. Il y avait des parcs, il y avait des hôpitaux, il y avait des écoles. C'était la vie normale, comme en France en fait. Sauf qu'on pouvait vivre notre islam en paix. C'est que vraiment quand ils ont commencé à attaquer Raqqa, que les gens ils ont commencé à fuir, que vraiment on a ressenti la guerre.
Like many jihadists, these women from France continue to defend their decision to live under the Islamic State, but they were ready to criticize IS too.
Je ne veux plus du tout être affiliée à eux, ils ne me représentent pas, je ne les représente pas. Je ne veux pas être affiliée à leur idéologie puisque pour moi c'est pas ça l'islam. Moi je suis musulmane et je le resterai jusqu'à ma mort.
Qu'est-ce qui n'était pas, selon toi,
les attentats
islamique?
suicides, ils les ont légiférés alors que c'est interdit. Et les conditions de la guerre, c'est pas comme ça. Les décapitations, ils en ont fait une grande propagande et tout. C'est se voir décapiter quelqu'un, c'est pas naturel. Hein. C'est pas naturel. Ça, évidemment, ça fait quelque chose. C'est bien sûr. Quand on voit ça, c'est choquant. Après, c'est sûr que notre discours, il n'est pas très crédible au vu de la situation, en pensant que tout le monde pense qu'on est dans la même idéologie.
En fait, dans la vie, on fait des choses pas bien et des choses bien. Et là, on a fait des choses pas très...
Non, la seule chose de pas bien qu'on a fait... Quand je regarde mon fils, non, je regrette pas d'être venu parce que c'est le destin. Mais ouais, je regrette de les avoir crus. Non, je regrette de les avoir crus. Je leur en veux à eux. Je suis pas une repentie. Je regrette ce que j'ai fait. Non, j'assume et je suis contente du parcours que j'ai eu parce que j'ai appris beaucoup de choses.
Vous avez essayé de quitter l'État islamique?
Oui, on a essayé.
C'était un cauchemar.
Qui n'a pas essayé? La vérité, qui n'a pas essayé?
La dernière année, on a essayé, même sans ça, on a essayé de quitter parce que c'était plus possible.
C'était plus possible. C'était pas une vie en fait.
C'était plus comme au début où ils garantissaient nos sécurités, où on vivait en paix. C'était devenu, même eux, ils étaient devenus complètement injustes dans leur manière de faire. Avec nous, ils étaient, même eux, c'était devenu aussi nos oppresseurs plus que la coalition était devenue oppresseur. On était finalement, on n'avait plus d'alliés, donc on voulait vraiment pas sortir de chez eux. Mais malheureusement, ils nous coupaient la route, ils nous empêchaient de sortir. Si on essayait de sortir, ils nous mettaient en prison. Moi, j'étais en prison chez eux parce que justement, on a voulu partir, jusqu'à ce que on se retrouve ici.
For now, only a handful of members of the Islamic State have returned to their home countries in Europe and North America. What will happen to them when they get there is sure to pose serious legal and ethical complications.